not afford to miss it. We'll be right back after this short video.
What is gender-based violence? Gender-based violence, or GBV, is one of the most common and widespread human rights violations. GBV is violence directed against someone on the basis of their gender or sex, which results in physical, sexual, or psychological harm. These acts violate an individual's human rights. GBV is most commonly perpetrated by men against women, girls, and other vulnerable people. However, men can also be victims of gender violence. Who are the perpetrators? Non-partner violence is violence inflicted by someone you do not know well, like strangers, acquaintances, or colleagues. However, violence is generally perpetrated by someone you are close to. This is known as interpersonal violence, which is perpetrated by either a friend or a family member. Intimate partner violence is perpetrated by someone you are in an intimate partner relationship with, a lover, spouse, or an ex-partner. What are the different types of violence? Physical violence is the intentional use of physical force or threats of violence. From a pinch to a punch, any act or threat of violence is damaging, whether the damage can be seen or not. Sexual violence is forcing, intimidating, or even tricking someone to engage in any sexual act against their will. Any sexual act with someone who is unable to understand what they're doing or is unable to consent because of their age, an illness, disability, or the influence of alcohol or other drugs is sexual violence. Forcing a lover or spouse to engage in sexual acts is a form of sexual violence, either called marital rape or intimate partner rape. Sexual harassment is also a form of sexual violence that can either be verbal or physical. It occurs in private and public spaces such as schools, workplaces, in the streets, and on public transport. Economic violence involves denying a person access to their money, economic activity, or other basic needs by either controlling their finances or stopping them from achieving financial independence. All these forms of violence may lead to emotional and physical trauma. Emotional violence can also include verbal abuse, humiliation, and controlling what a person can and cannot do. Emotional and economic violence are as equally damaging and disempowering as sexual and physical violence. These types of violence are often misunderstood or ignored by people, even those we turn to for help, like the police, the courts, and other support structures. No matter who you are, where you live, or who is inflicting it, GBV is never acceptable.
My name is Marianne Jambigaido. I am a trainee journalist and I'm the founder of Save Dreams Kenya, a community-based organization that aims at promotion of sustainable development in the rural areas. I am also a podcaster, yes, and a sister, a friend.
My name is Joyce Wanjikotuko. I'm an entrepreneur by profession. Also a partner in the said organization. I deal with aiding young girls with pads and yeah.
Growing up, I grew up just like any other kid. I went to school normally, but you know, it's kind of different growing up in the rural areas because we don't have as much amenities as we have in the urban areas. You get? So it was, let me say, a bit challenging at some point, but at least my parents made sure that I got enough. Anything that I wanted, at least I had enough. My growing up was pretty formal. First of all, I have a twin sister who resembles me. We resemble each other so much. I also have two brothers, and we also have another small baby who we've adopted. So we've been raised normally, just like the normal kids, going to church, going to school. The challenges that we faced were very normal for any family that is growing up. You know, my parents got married when they were very young, and they got us. My mom actually got us when she was 19, which was very new for her. So as she narrates, because now I can't really tell, as she narrates to us, raising twins, two babies. She wasn't even expecting that she's going to have twins. So she just got to the hospital and was told, kuna mtoto ametoka haya, kuna mwingine, you know. So it was very hard for her to like grasp that, and she battled depression for some time, but finally she overcame that. She was able to raise us very well. Sasa kuvalishwa nguo zinafanana, kwenda shule mnaulizwa wewe ni jambi ama wewe ni nyambo, you know. People really, up to now people they can't tell us apart. We just look alike so much. Yeah. So yeah, we went to school. First of all, I was born in Kibera. I was born in Kibera, but nilikuja kujijua nikiwa Kijabe. So we've moved from place to place, like hatujakaa place moja for a long time. So actually that was a challenge because unakaa hapa ukienda kuzoea watu mna move, unakaa hapa tena unaenda kuzoea watu mna move. So it was a bit challenging, but at least I say that my parents really did their best to bring us up in the right way and to just mold us into the people now who we are at this moment.
So growing up for me was quite different. I was born in Kiambu, in a village in Tinganga, in the interior, Kamunyonge, to be precise. Growing up was quite different for me because I'm born by uniquely abled parents. By that I mean they're both deaf. I hate using the word dumb. They are deaf and can't speak as well. So my first language was sign language, which was quite interesting. But it felt uniquely weird because growing up with other kids, you'd see other kids, like it's very normal for every child to expect their parents to call them, talk to them. But for me, my parents, every time I'd go probably to interact with other kids, you'd find it was very different. And at that age, it was weird and I didn't really understand, but now I do. And it's something that I truly appreciate. But also growing up in such an environment, it was quite tough because having or interacting with my parents was a challenge, which I've overcome, and having other siblings as well. I have an elder brother, I have a younger brother. So I watched, every person I meet will ask me, how did you learn sign language? And I tell them that's my first language. It's like how did you learn your mother tongue? Until I watched my younger brother grow. We have an age gap of 10 years, so I was able to watch him grow, and I observed how he slowly transitioned into learning sign language. So for me it was quite interesting interacting with other kids. But also we have a name which is Koda, which means children of deaf adults. In the village where I came from, we used to go to church, Emmanuel Church of the Deaf. So growing up, like transitioning from dealing with people, when you're young, your parents tend to keep you to themselves until you grow up. So that's when they probably let you go into the community. It felt weird because growing up, it's like in a community, you feel like, you get along with people you think you're in the same situation. So it felt very unique having friends of deaf parents as well, until it was time to now interact with people who are born by able parents. Not that like us being born of uniquely abled parents and people who are born by, I hate using the word normal because even the deaf are normal. It was quite tough, but now I think I have overcome that. I interact with anyone, whether you're from uniquely abled parents or not. So yeah, it was quite interesting. Well, I'd say one thing I appreciate about my grandparents, and my mom and her mom are sisters, so imetufanya we are really close. Like even probably growing up, due holidays when we close school, this is what ushago mbio. So one thing I appreciate about our grandparents, they made it very normal for me, or rather for me and my siblings. Like it was not any different. One thing I would hate is probably when someone is trying to be sympathetic about my situation, about like, oh, aonge ama if we go and then nani, the mom anaitwa Caro, my mom is Lillian. So rather than saying Caro and Lillian, they'd say Caro na huyu mama kwa mwenye ongeangi. So but my grandmother tried really hard to make it very okay and very normal, and to a point it's very normal. Her mother resembles my mom sana. So it became normal. The community really tried to make it seem, our family really tried to make it seem normal in as much as the community will not. And then pia ukipatana na watu wako like, ni msichana wa, I don't know why.
But they get shocked. They're like, wewe ati niaje wewe unaongea na your parents.
Mama kwa ongea ama mama kwa, I don't know why the society feels like probably someone who's disabled Hizi za watoto warembo.
Yeah. She's beautiful.
Thank you. Based on my upbringing, I'd say I was an introvert, very introverted, because okay, like I've said, I think I'll keep referring to that. My parents, being their condition, they felt like they are protecting us from the world. So every time yule mwenye tukitembea ningeshikwa mkono juu probably a car will hit you na they won't hear. So like growing up, it was really tough, like to transition. But funny enough, I don't know, you just find a way, which I did. But also there are things I collected out there that I tried bringing home, and my dad was like, you know, because yeah, I trust easily, and I think I was too friendly. No, I'm not. But it's something that I've had to learn the hard way. So my parents, the same way she said, yeah, like trusting people, they didn't believe in that, like just getting along with anyone, because for them they feel like they are in their own community, they are their own people. But sasa mimi nimetoka, I want to interact with people, and that really changed me from an introvert to an extrovert, like trying to get along with everybody and probably trying to be accepted by other people without them having to refer back to where I'm from, who I'm from, I'm brought up by. So yeah, I'd say somehow positively, some naweza sema positively, zingine zilikuwa positive, some were negative. Like sometimes I don't know which was, I'd say aka stage ka teenager ilikuwa like I don't know, I'd say ni kichwa wangu mama, sizi nika ukichwa wangu that I'd collected from out there, because I'd take advantage ile asi awaski, so I can probably come back late, sneak in and all. So yeah, naweza sema imechange hivyo, but I'd say positive ndio mingi compared to being the negative, and I got to appreciate my parents for who they are and how they are.
For me, it has been like it's like a norm in our family to always, not every day, but at least once in a month, to like sit down as a family and talk about what you've been through, what you're going through. So it was very easy for me, because my parents, they, like my mom and my dad especially, they sit you down and tell you, this is the world, this is how you're going to, this is what you're going to face, this is how you're supposed to face this. But as well, si ati kila kitu yenye umeambiwa utaenda encounter uko nje. You go and meet different things and you're like, guy, I wasn't prepared for this, like I don't know how to handle this. But then you just go back to the grassroots and remember, my dad said this and this, okay, trust nobody, fear everybody. So yeah, that's what we go with. So I feel like at least my parents have taken, like, it's up to them to like sit us down and talk to us about life, about the world, before they let us out there.
Well, for me, I'd say it was quite different, because my parents shied away from talking about a lot of things. Well, zile za kawaida they definitely would, but in depth, you'd find sometimes that shy away from talking about certain things. And then it's funny, you know, it's easy when you say something, but it's tough when you're signing it. Like signing some words was kind of challenge, but I thank God, because I had my aunties were approachable, like her mom, and another sister of my mom who passed on. So so I'd say it was easy, I'd say, coming from other people, but not my parents. My parents were just easy as a kawaida, the general probably knowledge, they would probably try to talk to me about it, but in depth, nah, they would shy away. I'd say they'd shy away. Ama, probably even them, they didn't get the chance to be probably cool. You know, even like my grandmother, no, the parents to my parents, both of them, they were not very good in sign language. And like us, my parents went to Kamboi school for the deaf, so they were very good at sign language. But for them, so may I assume, maybe at a while, the parents were not able to communicate nicely via sign language, so they just learned on their own. So my parents also assumed you learn on your own, and I did. And I turned out great. I turned out great.
When I first received my menses, it was very, you know, you're in a new environment, new teachers, you haven't even made friends. So I went to my sister and told her, I think I've started menstruating. She was like, ati, si bado sisi ni watoto, you know. But it was we went, like me and my twin, tukaomba matron the keys to the dormitory, tukaenda tukafungua, and she was like, sasa mtu anafanyanga aje? Like we literally figured it on our own. My sister was like holding the panty and I'm like holding the packet of sanitary towels, and like sasa unafungua, alafu we had no idea, like totally, and I think we did it wrong the very first time, until now later on I got like the courage to go and ask the matron, how is it done? She explains to me very in a better way for me to understand. It was very hard for me to even open up to someone I don't know, and to even to know that much. And I think I am, because at that time it was kitambo sana. You feel like it's still bad. We are not like there as a community to talk about these things like very openly. So for me to even just come out, it feels like coming out. To just come out and tell someone that I've seen a stain on my innerwears. What do I do? It was very, very hard for me to open up and to even know how to insert a sanitary towel on an innerwear. It was very challenging for me. In kwa syllabus the Kenyan syllabus, in class 4 you learn about reproductive health. So you're briefed, you're told it will come to a time and you'll start experiencing menses, you'll start experiencing, your body will start changing, especially as a woman, you'll start having, the boobs, and your body will just start like expanding, So like I was psychologically prepared that this might happen to me, but I didn't know it will happen like this soon. So at least I had the idea of menstruation, I had the idea of my body changing, I had the idea of everything that is going to happen to me, but I really didn't know that when will this happen, you get. So I appreciate that at least the shule inafunza about reproductive health, but at least not everything is out there for us to know. So yeah, at least I had the idea.
For me, it was quite different because, like she said, she started hers when she was in class 6. Mine, I think I was in form 2. So I knew about it because by the time I was joining high school, I'd see other girls probably who are on their menses, and it really didn't bother me until I think medically it's supposed to be you when you're 16 and you've not had your menses, you should be worried. So I got to a point where I began being worried, and I really anticipate for that to happen, which is crazy. I really anticipated for me probably to start my periods, for me to feel normal. Even you can ask, I was very tiny, having those physical features of being like a mature lady, I became later on in life. And then I had shaved my hair, so I was wondering, so it would really bother me. But I was in high school then. My mom, like I said, my mom was very shy. She is even now. But I think now, having that I've grown up, we have some conversation, but not in depth. So at the time, she didn't really talk about it. So I talk about it with my friends. And funny enough, when I was joining high school, she assumed I had received my periods. Why? Because when we were probably shopping for school stuff, she'll put in a sanitary pad. I knew I'd not use it, so I'd probably give it to my friends. But it got to a point where it started bothering me. I was like, should I go seek medication or something? But funny enough, around when I was turning 17, I was just at home over holiday. It began.
the moment
came, and I felt weird. I didn't know who to talk to.
Personally, unlike her, she was very tiny, but me and my twin were we've been plus size for like our whole life. So every time we are in a gathering, we are among people, we tend to be like the biggest, the hugest. I don't know the word to use. So and even developing, we really developed so fast because tukiingia class 6 bado tulikuwa like our features had already developed. And not the most challenging thing was when you're that young, alafu you see men say when they start like saying, hey, I remember when I went to boarding the first time, I was really like, my body had developed. I was a very young but a very developed woman, a very young woman. So when I went to school the first time, after to pack everything, my parents have left, watu walikuwa wanachungulia, and I was like, guys, like what is wrong, And then I came to learn later that it's like a culture in, you know, to appreciate people with big bodies and everything. But I felt like really weird. Like I didn't want that for me. I want like to be a very, you know, slim, tender. I don't want everyone to look at me and say, "Huyu ni mwenye anakuanga na nini kubwa." I didn't want that. It was very and I really tried to like miss my meals, to not to eat. Starving myself to like, I just wanted to be tinier, but it didn't happen. I came to like learn later on that I'm, you know, beautiful and everything. But when you're a kid and everyone is like, hey, umekishakuwa, like, you know, it was very, very challenging for me to like fit in. So I feel like when when someone wants to wear a bra and they're not like really developed, unashanga, hey, me didn't want that. I just wished singekuwa tena. Yeah.
After high school, life was pretty easy because remember I was a free bird. I learned a lot on my own. So after interacting with boys, remember I'm the only girl in my family. I have 2 brothers. I've grown up with boys. Mine was very different. I think funny enough even today I get along more with the opposite gender than girls. So even in college it was quite interesting. It was easy growing up around them because it felt normal. It was not any different, and I'd not say there were any challenges probably in college unlike in high school, because in high school there's a lot of bullying. And it's funny, like she said, she always wanted to be smaller. Me always wanted to be bigger. Always wished to have those features, to be big, you know, because I was quite tiny. When I came to add weight, I think way later in life when I started working. So I'd say it was I enjoyed my life in college rather than my life in high school, because in high school it was quite challenging because it was also far away from home. I was also in a boarding school, and people were put to a D, and then funny enough, people from Nairobi felt like they knew more than us. Kwanza sijui D, Kayole, Sheng, sasa unakuja kujulia high school. But college, everyone is just there to probably finish school and are living at home, and some are in school and they are working. So like their maturity levels, you cannot compare them to someone probably who's in high school, because you're probably in the same age group. But in college you can find someone who's probably alikuwa anafanya job, then they came back to school to study. So it was quite easy and interesting, unlike high school. I didn't like my high school.
And the story is just getting interesting. Do not go anywhere.